Hello, everybody. Welcome to economics course, where we will be reviewing economics, saving and investment, and production of goods and services. But this is only for part 1. In part 2, we'll be covering more topics that you might have to know about economics. First off, let's start with topic number 1, economics. So first, what's economics? Economics is that we got limited resources, right? But humans have unlimited needs. So it's the study of how we can satisfy our unlimited needs with the limited resources that we have. Okay, now let's talk about goods in economics. There are two types of goods: a free good and an economic good. For free goods, they're abundant, so you can find them a lot. As for economic goods, they are limited. They have value, like food, clothing. And free goods are some things like water, air, and sunlight. So those are the two types of goods. Now let's look at the types of economics, because there are actually two types of economics. That being microeconomics and macroeconomics. When we're talking about microeconomics, we're looking at the behavior of an individual. Say, for example, this is Mr. Pokpong, and he wants to buy a thing. That is microeconomics in a way. Now, macroeconomics. In macroeconomics, we are talking about like the nation's economy. So say the United Kingdom, right? So it's about their national economy, GDP, and government policies. Now that we've covered all that, where did economics come from, really? What's the history? So first, there was a Greek guy named Xenophon. Xenophon made Oeconomicus. This word coming from oikos and nemein, which meant household management. After that, mercantilists came, and they were accumulating gold and silver and basically trading them for other things. Then there was a French man named Francois Quesnay, and at this time he invented the circular flow of economy. And the circular flow of natural wealth. But his circular flow of economy was also known as tableau économique. And that is all for the history of economics. Then it was modern economics history after that. Okay, for the last topic in part 1, let's look at famous economists. What kind of famous economists do you know? I think you would know Adam Smith, right? He's the father of modern economics. He discussed the idea of laissez-faire, meaning that there should be little to no intervention by the government in markets. He also made the concept of the invisible hand, that is, the hand that is regulating the market. Basically, the market is regulating itself, and that is the concept of the invisible hand. He also made the book that is Wealth of Nations. The next famous person that you might know is David Ricardo. David Ricardo made the law of comparative advantage, and the law of diminishing marginal returns. And I think that was all David Ricardo did. That was famous and recognized by many. Next up is Karl Marx. Karl Marx was against the idea of capitalism, so he was the guy who discovered communism. He discussed class struggle, and he created the book Das Kapital. And that one you might know about. Next up, we're going to talk about the other basic economic concepts. First, scarcity. What's scarcity? So scarcity, imagine we have two guys. They only have one coconut, so they gotta share it. Cut it in half, maybe. And it's that the two guys, they want the coconut for themselves. And that is their unlimited needs. So with all the humans in the world and their unlimited needs, the resources are limited and will eventually not satisfy those unlimited needs that us humans have. Next up, supply and demand. Supply and demand works in a way that they will meet at a certain point called equilibrium. But the thing is that if there's less demand, the supply will increase. And if there's less supply, the demand will increase. Next up is choices in economics. So there are two choices called trade-off and opportunity costs. I'm not going to elaborate on what they mean because they have basic meanings. And the last one is utility. Utility is basically how satisfied the consumer is. Say for example, this guy right here. He's not satisfied. Yeah, he isn't satisfied. And this guy right here, it's alright, he says. And this guy right here thinks it's really good. Yeah? And that is how utility works in simple terms. So that's going to be all for part 1. Now let's go look at part 2 of part 1 that we're going to discuss today. It's savings and investment. So the topics that we're going to discuss are savings, investment, and relationship between savings and investment. So let's go look at savings. Savings are a portion of your income that you do not spend on consumption. Instead, you set it aside somewhere else. So, maybe you could set it up in an account, piggy bank, a box, etc. Now, what are the benefits of savings? Savings allow financial security. They also allow for future goals, such as if I want to buy a new laptop, maybe my old one's broken, I need a new one. So I have to save for that. And that is the benefit of savings that allows for your future goals. Savings can also prepare you for emergencies. Say you had a car crash. That is an emergency. But with the savings you have, you bought a new car. Good job. That is emergency preparedness. You can also open for opportunities in investment if you save money. Savings can also help you avoid debt. It can give you a peace of mind and helps with economic growth. Now let's look at the factors of saving. So what do you think are the factors of saving? I'd say personal income. Interest or profit gained from savings. Value of money. Another factor of saving is your personal spending habit. Expectation of future events. Technological financial services. And welfare after retirement. So that's almost all the factors of saving. What are the targets of saving? So there are short-term targets and long-term targets. Short-term is for when you have emergencies. You collect money for emergency use. Long-term savings, you collect it for something in the future. And it's like the example I given before. I want to save for a new laptop. My old one is broken. And when you save, you need to ask yourself some questions for the rules of savings. What's the convenience? What's the tax? Extra service? Interest rate? And all those other questions that you might ask yourself before saving. Now, if you want to get into the habit of saving money, spend more wisely. It helps out a lot. If you want to get into the habit of saving, of course. Now let's go look at investment. Say you have a bunch of resources. You will allocate all of those resources into assets, ventures, or opportunities. That is investment. What's the importance of investment, you may ask? You get return of investment, business expectations, or high productivity, and funds for developing countries. And that is the importance of investment. There are also 3 types of investment that we have to talk about today. So what are the 3 types of investment? You can invest in consumption. You can invest in business. And you can invest in assets. And those are the 3 types of investment. Now let's look at the relationship between savings and investment. Let me just write this down first. My handwriting is going to be a bit messy today. If you can't read it, ask me in the comments. So, savings will provide the resources for investment. Then the investment will transform the savings into productive assets that generate economic returns in both personal finance and the broader economy. Savings are the fuel that drives investment, and investment is essential for growth and wealth creation. That's going to be all for part 2 of part 1 of our economics little review. Okay, let's look at the last part we'll be talking about today, which is production of goods and services. So what's the definition of production in economics? Production in economics refers to the combination of various inputs. So you have labor, capital, and tech. And that allows you to create goods and services that satisfy people. And that's basically how production works. Now there's 3 categories of production. Let me write it down for you. First off is primary production. Primary production will depend on natural resources. For secondary production, it depends on some machinery. Say you got gears spinning around and machines working hard in your factory. That is secondary production. Next up, tertiary production is just services. So you got this guy, right? He's your barber. And he's giving you a nice haircut. Shiny bald head. So tertiary production is in the form of services, and that's all the 3 categories of production. Let's look at the factors of production. The factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So land is the natural resources that we use in production. Right? And labor is the human efforts. So your workers put effort into it. But there are 2 types of labor: skilled and unskilled. So skilled labor is you are already well trained and have knowledge in this field. But unskilled is you have no training. You have no special training and no skill in that field at all. And that's basically the 2 types of labor. Oh shit, sorry. Let's look at the capital. The capital is the machinery, the equipment, and the building that you're using to produce your goods and services. And then there are 2 types of capitals. Capital goods means tools that were made by humans. But the financial capital refers to the money that is used to buy capital goods. Now, the entrepreneur is the individual that's in charge. They organize the entire business. And that's the factors of production. Okay, so what are the use of resources in production? They could maximize the benefit. You can choose tools that you'll use. And they can conduct recruitment. So you could get more workers. Now let's look at the responsibility of producers. That's the ethical responsibility. They should be ashamed of wrongdoing. They should be actively developing products. and they should be honest with their consumers. Those are the responsibilities that are ethical for producers. Now, if you want to make goods and services more valuable, how do you do that? You could turn your expertise into goods and services. Yeah? You could make use of your knowledge. You could be creative and make goods and services like none other. And that's basically how you can make your goods and services more valuable. So that is all that we are going to be covering for part 1 of the economics course and review. So I'll be seeing you in part 2, where things will get a bit more complex, but I'll try to make it as easy to understand as possible. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.